And we are live. Welcome to another webinar. I do have other shirts. This just happens to be my Wednesday shirt for those of you who watch Daily Maverick YouTube videos. But today I am joined by Chris Baker and RJ. I'm not going to attempt his surname, but he used to be Mr. Apple for South Africa, in charge of selling all those wonderful iPhones and Macs, actually, back in the day. But now he's pivoting to AI and helping enable businesses to use these amazing tools, the greatest technology that has ever been invented by humanity. He's helping harness that for SMEs, enterprises of all sizes. I know in journalism, AI is the big bad. It's going to replace my job at some stage. It is currently replacing my job, but I also use it as a tool. So Google has Notebook LM, an amazing tool. I can just dump all of my research, all of my notes that I'm drafting, and then it acts as an assistant that I can just shoot a question to whenever I get stuck. We're busy writing a story, busy writing a script or something, and it just feeds me all of that information on demand, and it's nicely containerized only to my data. My question to the panelists is, am I doing AI right?
Absolutely, but you can do better, and I hope that we can help you along the way today.
Good indeed.
That's awesome.
Nice.
How can other people help? How can other people integrate these tools into their lives, especially because all these businesses get sold, Google selling to them, Microsoft selling to them. It's like, use our little bot and it's going to do everything. And then you buy the capability in and you end up having tools that aren't suited to whatever business you are using. And now you have to pay AWS fees and the costs keep ramping up. And then AWS goes offline and suddenly you don't have any fallbacks. How do we approach this? And how are you guys helping solve these problems?
Well, thank you for asking. So we've prepared a program today for the listeners. So first of all, thank you very much for everyone that's online today. We're very privileged and very thankful that you take time out of your busy schedule to be with us. So what we would like to do today is, and we have shared a short presentation, but most of the time we're going to take you through real life demos of how you can incorporate AI in your life. So you've done the introduction, Lindsay, thank you very much. What we would like to do today is, first of all, the seminar today, or the webinar, is a follow-up on the one that Daily Maverick did in May. It was Jeremy Kaplan from Wonder Tools that showed, and you must definitely go take a look at that webinar on YouTube. The link is here. He showed a number of generative AI tools, but the difference with today was those were for discrete tasks, ideation, meeting notes, making images, running projects in Notebook LM, etc. What we're trying to do today is say, and most people that are online today have an idea. You know, they want to start a community project, do something for their church, or they have a business idea that they want to do from home, or they want to improve their business as a freelancer, or it's a product that you want to present to your bosses. Many people have ideas, but they don't have the skills and the tools to bring it from an initial idea to a fully fledged product or project. And what we're showing to you today is the tools to do so. And before we show you those tools, it's very important to remember that for AI, a new type of intelligence is needed. We all are comfortable with IQ, that's our innate intelligence. But more importantly, we know about EQ, emotional intelligence. We know that it's much easier to get something done from another human being by putting yourself in their shoes and by taking the situation from their perspective. You know, be nice to people. And that's why you need to be a student of human psyche. You know, if you want to get ahead in life, you know, be good at dealing with people. The same actually applies to artificial intelligence. The better you are at understanding how it works, not technically, but practically, the better results you get out of it. So we are infusing today's webinar with some tips and tricks how you can be better at symbiotic intelligence. Now, the way we're going to run this webinar is by taking a hypothetical situation. On the left-hand side is Joanne Clark. She works as an HR and admin manager for a ground transportation services company in Johannesburg. And during the Heritage Day bride that she had at her house, the concept of the G20 summit that's taking place in Joburg in November came up. And Praveen, who's standing next to Johan, said, wouldn't it be nice if all these overseas visitors could experience South Africa? What if we put together authentic cultural experiences? And Joanne says, what a great idea, because in the back of the mind, she's thinking, my company can, use a boost to grow the business. And she asks her son, Peter, who you see on the right-hand side, you've been talking a lot about AI. He's a student at WITS, mechanical engineering, and asks him, do you think AI can help us? And he said, of course, let me bring in my girlfriend, Tandy, who's standing next to her. She's a cultural anthropologist. She knows a lot about these experiences in South Africa. So let's do it. But also let's bring in Boitumelo, who's standing in the middle. She was a freelance photographer, now a full-time mother. And she knows Joburg inside out and still has a lot of contacts in civil society. So this is the perfect team to start exploring whether or not offering authentic cultural experiences as an extension of your transport company is a good idea. So that's the team that will be with us today. And what we're going to do is to take you through what is the typical process of evaluating an idea. So this does not only apply to companies. It actually is more suited to a small team than a big team, because all of these steps you need to do yourself. So you quickly need to evaluate, is this actually a good idea? And once you think it's a good idea, you need to say, are there other people out there that already have a similar product or service or community concept that will prevent me from doing something similar? Or is it something that they don't do well enough so that I can take advantage and offer a better product, service, or project? Now, once you've satisfied yourself that you are indeed in a position to take on the competition, you need to develop the business model. Now, why is a business model important? You may have a great idea, but everything in life costs money. And you want to make sure that over time you're not going bankrupt pursuing your dream. And if you want other people to become part of your dream, give you money, give you funding, give you grants, they will start asking questions if you've given it enough thought. So whether you like it or not, you will have to go through this process. And the next step is probably daunting for most people. You have to put your idea in a spreadsheet. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money going to be spent? Do we have enough working capital to pursue our dreams? And a lot of people come unstuck in pursuing their dreams because they've not given enough attention to this particular aspect, the money side of things. Once we have a good feel that the project can sustain itself, so not all the things that we discussed today are about making a profit. It's about, can you sustain your side project, your passion? That's what it's all about. Nothing more, nothing less. But then you need to put the project in place. As you saw, we have 5 people on the team. How can we assign tasks? How can we assign deliverables? And how can we keep track of the project? And then finally, we need to launch the project. We need to tell the world. We're going to show you how you can quickly create very good press releases and images that you in the market. Then I can see some people that find this overwhelming. Now, you don't have to worry, because what you need to see AI as your friend that's an accounting or a web developer or a family member that is a project manager or a web designer. So treat AI as a team that can be replaced so that you can get your concept to the next level, so that when you go to a friend or family, the project is already a lot more thought out and they're probably a lot more willing to help you because you're not asking the basic questions. But I would immediately like to say, we're only showing you today how to do this because we only have 40 minutes. We can't teach you, but we want to leave you with the impression that you can do this with the help of AI. You don't have to be a project manager or a business person or an entrepreneur or have an MBA. After today, and we'll give you access to all the tools and Daily Maverick will show you later how you get access to the tools so that you can replicate it by yourself. Now, what is very important to know, and we saw already a couple of questions coming through in anticipation of the webinar, where people ask the question, we hear about AI hallucinating, meaning it makes up answers and it very confidently tells us falsehoods. And I understand that, but people do the same. So you must trust people, but verify. And we'll show you today a couple of techniques on how you can get better answers and less hallucinations out of AI. And you do that by way of prompting. You know, first of all, you have the basic prompt. We'll show you examples of everything this afternoon. What is important to understand is that you should always tell an AI what to do. You don't ask it questions, you give it instructions. So don't say, where can I get the best restaurant meal in my area, but say, tell me where I can get the best restaurant meal in my area. The next level is a detailed prompt, and we'll go through that with our live examples. And the third level is the very complex prompts. And there's a place in time and in your project for each one of them. And it's just much better to see this as part of the demos that we do. Now, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Chris knows what is coming in the presentation. If he sees that the question will be answered during the demos, he will leave it. If it's a very important question that needs to be addressed right now, he will jump in and we will answer your question. So please don't hesitate. Give us your questions right away. As I said, all the materials and prompts will be made available in a Google Drive for you to play around with. And now,
welcome to the Daily Maverick Generative AI Weekend Retreat.
So what we are going to do with Daily Maverick is we're going to put all kinds of concepts put together. It could be half day, full day, an entire weekend for you to come and join us and to learn more about how you can incorporate artificial intelligence in your life, in your job, or in your hobby or in your dream. What we've done for people in Cape Town, the biggest event this week was obviously the cancellation of the marathon. It didn't cause the global outage of the internet. It was Amazon. But when we ran the prompts yesterday, it was it took a long time. So we've decided to preload all the prompts right now. So what you see is actually not live, but we will show you how we got to the answers and you can see it warts and all. And we will make these prompts available for you to go through at your own leisure and at your own pace. So now let's get into the demos. Chris, are there any questions that we need to address at this stage?
No, it's still good, RJ.
Good. So let's start with the first prompt. I hope you can all see my screen. Chris, is it all visible?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. So we are now at the first stage where we quickly need to get a good idea if what our dream is, our project is actually feasible. And this is where you start to deploy more detailed prompts because the model has no context. And the more context and the more instructions you give it, the better the answer is going to be. So in this particular instance, you say to the model, you're my consultant. We've talked about the context. We want to extend our business with a new product. So you give all the detail of that. Then the task is very important that you specify that. Help me quickly evaluate this business idea in a quick and dirty way. And then you specify the instructions and then you give it what you want as an output. So be succinct, business-like, and use bullet points. So after that, it very quickly says, it's a good idea with manageable risk. And that's what you want to know because now you have the confidence that you should pursue it in more detail. Now, some people may think, you know what if the model always says that everything is a good idea? Well, we tested that and we said, what about unguided nighttime walking tours in Hillbrow? The model says, bad idea, right off the bat. So now you have the confidence that you can actually trust this model because you would probably come at the same conclusion for this particular idea. So the next step So you go from a very high level, but somewhat detailed question to now saying, okay, if this is a good idea, help me flesh it out for myself, for other stakeholders in the project, or for a boss, or for an outside funder of my project. So the role that you give it now is a business development expert. The context is we've agreed that the business is a good idea, but now we need to flesh it out in more details. And again, don't worry about this following this prompt in detail. We will give you access to it so that you can peruse it at your own leisure. So what are the instructions is look at the competition, look at international benchmarks, look at what the opportunities are in the market, and then take these insights and write a memorandum that we can now share with other people so that we can discuss with them whether or not they think this is a good idea. Okay? So the other instruction that is very important here, format. If you've used ChatGPT before, I don't know if you're aware of the fact that if you ask it to open the canvas, it means that you can take the memorandum that it just created for us. We can edit it. So I can open it and I can now use ChatGPT as if it was a word processor, So I can add words myself and then download. So that is a very interesting tip. You don't have to always interact with ChatGPT through the chat interface. So it's created this memorandum. I've downloaded it. So you can see that it creates a very nice professional looking memorandum. Okay, so this is the first step in evaluating your business idea. You went from a quick and dirty evaluation to an entire concept worked out. Okay, so now we go to the next phase. You have convinced yourself or anyone else that's involved in the project or needs to give you funding that it's worth pursuing. But the next step is to say, what is the competition out there? Now, we can approach that in two ways. And I think most people would say something similar along the lines of, we want to offer authentic cultural experiences as an extension of our business. Please give me a report of all the competitors in Gauteng. Now, what you'll see is that it took it ChatGPT 30 seconds, and it does already a relatively good job. You know, it decides by itself how to present this information to you. It's good, but it can be better. So what we would like to show you now is what happens if you take a little more time structuring the prompt such that the output is immediately providing you with additional information to flesh out your idea. And one of the things that we wanted, for example, to be done is to say, what are the weaknesses in the offering of competitors that we should take advantage of? What are the opportunities that we see in the market that no one else is taking? And what are the potential downsides of our idea? Okay, that is something that is important that ChatGPT would not necessarily by itself look at. So what then happens is that the report that we get is a lot more detailed. And again, because we specified that we want it to open the canvas, I could again go in and make changes to the report, etc. But probably the most interesting step is to say, also create me a short spreadsheet with the top 10 competitors, and in columns, give me what their offering is, give us what their strengths and weaknesses are, and give us the opportunities and threats. Because what we will do with this particular spreadsheet is use it in all subsequent steps of our project to always keep in the back of our minds that we shouldn't only think about our idea, but also need to test it against what else is happening in the market. So again, what ChatGPT does is to create a very professional looking, but also has very good content. So here we have the full details of all the competitors because I asked for that. Who are the principals in the business? How can I contact them? And if you go back to the prompt, I also made it very clear, and this goes to the point of hallucinations. I said in the prompt, please, if you don't know the answer, don't make anything up. Say something along the lines as to be determined. And that is how you can overcome hallucinations. This is actually very simple. Tell it if you don't know, don't make things up. Okay. And then the next product that it created is the spreadsheet. As you can see here, it gives me an overview very simply of the top 10 competitors in the market. What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities for us? What are the threats to us, etc. So again, we're now one step further in building out our idea. We have a very, very good understanding of who we are going to be up against in the market. Any questions, Chris, at this stage?
No. Carry
Okay.
on.
So now we're getting into more of the business world. Now we need to develop a business model. And the business model is very simply, how are we going to get revenues in and where are we going to spend money on? How are we reaching out to the people that should benefit from our project? Again, it's not only businesses, it could be people in the community for which we're setting up an NGO style project. But we need to think about it. But most people haven't attended business school or haven't worked as an entrepreneur. So the first question that we ask ourselves, and in this case, Claude, which is another AI model, is what framework should we use to help us develop this project in more detail? And it very quickly gives you an answer. It comes up with a couple of models that you can use, but it very specifically says for most small business concepts, I'd recommend starting with a business model canvas. Fine, we'll do that. So we look up what the business model canvas looks like. This is it. It's a very simple one page that you need to fill out. And in order to fill it out, you go to a website, in this case from IMD, where it explains this. Now, again, if you're not an expert in business modeling, even the IMD website won't help you much. So we then say, okay, take the website from IMD, and we are putting up our business, our concept memorandum, the very high level idea. We look at our competitors, and now we ask the model to take us through step by step the 9 building blocks of the business model canvas. And again, this applies to anything, whether it's starting a small business from your house or improving your freelance business or starting a community concept. This process will be very helpful because it will take you through what you need to think about. So the first instance, block number 1 is, what is my value proposition? So it gives me a high level overview. And I said, no, I'm actually not happy with that. You need to be more specific. What is it that we're going to offer in terms of authentic cultural experiences? And then it said, okay, we do township visits, we are meeting with artisans, we do culinary immersions, etc. So the idea is that in an interactive process, you start working with the AI to refine the entire business model. But it prompts you what you need to think about, but you're still very much possible to give your input. So it's literally a tool to help you think through your project. What we then, in the interest of time, it quickly ran through all the other building blocks of the value proposition. Please look at this at your own leisure. But again, this is a very long process. It creates a very comprehensive document, which I will show you now again. But this is not something that you would share with your friends or family when you want to get their input. It's much better to create an interactive artifact, which is in this case a website, that mirrors the business model canvas that we showed you before. So the next step is we basically say to this model, you've just helped us create the business model report, business model canvas report. I'm giving you the template. Now, please create this into something that I can sit with other stakeholders and go through in detail. So what it then created is the following interactive website. So this is the business model canvas. It has populated all the blocks in the canvas, And now I can click on something, for example, the key activities, and it brings up all the detail. So what is the benefit
Oh,
of this?
Jane, I think this is a good point to answer one of the questions is this all free? Because what you're showing on the screen now does not look like something that you should be getting for free.
It is something that you can get for free. You cannot make 10 or 20 of these a day, but you can use everything for free. So a lot of the tools that we use, we pay for them because it's our business. But we specifically try to show you things that can be done already for free today or will be made available to you for free in the near future. But you're raising a very important point. I was in the same league. 3 years ago, when people asked me to pay $20 a month for a piece of software, it was something that I had to really wrap my head around. That's 400 rands a month. That is amazing. But what we're starting to see now is that these tools are starting to replace our friends, our family, or even colleagues that we can't afford. So if you have an idea, you cannot afford a 5,000 rand PR officer or a consultant that will cost you 5,000 rand per hour. And if you look at it in this particular fashion, we actually recommend to people that you pick one of the models, spend the 400 rand. You can do it for a month or two, but it will be an absolute best investment that you make to get your project to the next level. So this is computer programming. We didn't computer program at all. We just said in English natural language what we wanted to see. And this is a tool. Okay, this is a tool that helps you think through your project. Okay, let's go to the next step because we now have a visual representation of our business model, but now we need to get to the money side. And I know this is dreadful for most people. Not many people need to know or do know where to start, how to create a financial model. So again, what we do is we say to Claude, help us create a prompt to create a spreadsheet. Now, this is also addressing one of the questions that we got before. How do we know that the AI is actually giving us the right answer? And the way to do it is to say, please tell me how you want to approach this problem. Okay, so the first thing I say, don't make me a spreadsheet. I say, please tell me how you would prompt yourself to make a spreadsheet. So that's step number one. So we need to have a very basic spreadsheet. You basically tell me what the prompt is that you're going to use to build the spreadsheet and allow me to interact with that. So what you then see next, and again, we'll send you this prompt. You can go through it at leisure. It basically explains what it thinks the spreadsheet should be about. And it tells you what every tab of the Excel spreadsheet should contain. It tells you how it should format it, etc., etc. So I went through this in detail, and I figured out that it made one mistake. So I fixed this mistake, and it created a prompt. Okay. Then the next step is to say, take your prompt and create the spreadsheet. And it will create a spreadsheet. But, and this is where experience comes in, we also said, once you've created a spreadsheet, immediately tell us what is the plan for you to verify if this Excel spreadsheet is technically correct, meaning that all the formulas work and that they're all linked, and that your assumptions are correct. Because in the first instance, it said to me that the business was going to generate 27 billion rand, which is obviously not possible. So we know that. So we already ask it, create an in-depth sanity check plan, which it did, which I verified. And I also immediately said at the bottom, there's already some mistakes that I see. The revenues don't make sense, the costs don't make sense, and you've not adhered to my guidelines. Now, people may initially say, oh, the AI is not working that well. But if you had a junior associate working for you, they would also not give you a piece of work that from the beginning is right. So this is where symbiotic intelligence comes in. Trust, but verify. Work with it as your companion. So the minute you do this, it will now go and checks its own work. This is what I mean being devil's advocate. Always say in
Jump
a
in
complex.
quick.
Yeah.
the chat is seeing you jump between ChatGPT and
Yeah.
Claude. And Chris and Nana are wondering, how do you choose which model to use? And then how do you let them collaborate across your project?
Very
Good, so
interesting.
good question. And let me step up for a second here, RJ. RJ is deliberately switching between several different models to show you that they actually are very interchangeable. And even when one model tends to do something better than another model for a while, they're not generally more than 2 weeks or a month ahead of the competition. So what you'll find here is RJ is using Claude at the moment because it's particularly good at creating pretty artifacts, they're called, or pretty spreadsheets or pretty little models and things like that business model canvas you saw just now. It's really good at that. But Gemini is now caught up with that. OpenAI or ChatGPT is now caught up with that. And we tend to switch between them. Jenny asked a question, which one is best for long documents and being able to synthesize a long document without it losing context or losing some of the meaning? And we all tend to have our preferences. And I think my personal preferences, I use Claude for anything to do with extremely long documents and anything to do with creating pretty little tools on the side. I use ChatGPT for anything to do with hardcore logic, really careful thinking. But it's a preference. They actually all do exactly the same. But one of the questions that came up is, can Copilot do all of this? And the answer is, up until a couple of weeks ago, Copilot could pretty much not do anything. It was a terrible miss on behalf of the Microsoft. It's now starting to look like it's coming into fore and coming to play. And we saw the same from Google. They lost the plot for a good few months, and only in the last 2 months have they actually come back to the table with some phenomenal products. So you really just need to play around with them. And it goes back to the question of, is this all free? One of the things we recommend to people is sign up for all four of them for free and switch between them. When one says you've had enough for today, we're not giving you any more, that's fine. Switch over to the next. Very easy to do. Back to you, RJ.
Thank you. Yeah, so to build on the concept of symbiotic intelligence, we always say about humans there's strength in diversity. We like to get input from different people in our team. Start treating the different AI models as people that come from diverse backgrounds and have diverse strengths. And if you use them all interchangeably and let them comment on each other's works, you will find that the output at the end is much better. So don't just use one model. So this is the process that it went through. So let me share with you now the final spreadsheet. I will stop and share this one and show you the spreadsheet. And after a number of iterations, you see that it starts with a README file. So it explains how the whole model works. It gives you the assumptions that you can play around with. So everything in yellow you can change. Gives you the revenue forecast, cost forecast, cash flow forecast, and a summary dashboard. Now, this is extremely powerful. If you've been in financial modeling, you should really feel blown away by what it can do. Again, we'll give you access to the spreadsheet and the whole process, how we got to that. But I can also see that you say, listen, I'm really not an expert in filling out a spreadsheet. How do I get that information? So we'll have an answer for you as well. And that is, we basically asked the model at the end, give us a report, look at the spreadsheet, and for every tab, for every cell that the user needs to come up with information, explain us where you get that information on. So basically what we've shown you is that you don't have to be a financial modeling expert. With the help of this tool, you can create a spreadsheet and over a period of 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, fill out the spreadsheet because this particular document shows you exactly where you get the information from, who you should interview, what sources you should use for that, and what pitfalls you need to be wary about. So that concludes the section about the spreadsheet. And now we're getting into, again, something that's probably closer to home. And that is that we need to figure out how are we going to give different tasks to different people in our team. Now,
So in fact,
again,
RJ, One of the questions we have is, can ChatGPT do the same sort of visualizations you just showed us in Claude? And you're about to show us Gemini, that's from Google, doing even better visualizations than you just saw from Claude. And yes, ChatGPT can do them too. So all of these engines are able to create live interactive web pages without you having to own your own server or pay hosting fees to somebody. They do it right here in the chat. It is such a cool feature.
Yeah. Again, good point. Brings me to symbiotic intelligence. If you ask a human being to do something, more likely than not, they'll take the easy way out. And because it's quite expensive for the people that offer these models to do some more advanced tasks. So you really need to push it to open the canvas. So in ChatGPT, what I showed before, an editable document, you need to say, please open the canvas for me so that I can edit it myself. So that's how you start interacting with the canvas. Really push the model to make it available for you. So we now have a business model canvas. And what we now need to do is out of that distill a project plan. And again, coming from an idea to a fleshed out idea to a project plan could be a challenge for people that are not experienced project managers. Again, we have an answer here. We basically asked, in this case, Gemini, tell me what frameworks exist for project management and recommend me the one that's most suitable for my idea. And in this particular case, it gave you a couple of ideas, but it came up with the Kanban methodology. For people that are not familiar with it, it was invented by Toyota, and it basically represents a physical board on the wall with job cards. Okay, so now we decide that that's what we want to do. So the next step in the process was then to take what a Kanban board could be. So we basically said, create us a Kanban board. So we go through the process of creating it, and you see, this is an iterative process because it created a Kanban board and said, I see nothing. And then it says, okay, I apologize for that. Let me go and fix that. And ultimately, it creates the Kanban board. And what I want you to do is look at this. Nowhere is there any computer code. Nowhere. It just is, from my end, a couple of very short comments. I like the layout, but I'm not sure if you really capture the essence of all the tasks that we need to accomplish, because I know the model is lazy. Go over the report again and find more tasks that we need to focus on. You always need to push this model. And what it then generated for us is the following.
While we're waiting for that, RJ, Barry asks, when you switch between models, how do you ensure continuity between them? And the answer, Barry, is you can have a complete chat on ChatGPT, and then you can either export that to PDF or simply copy it all off your screen, paste it all into Claude and say, hey, carry on talking about this with me. And honestly, as far as the LLM models, the language models are concerned, every time you ask a question, they get the full conversation for the first time in their lives, and they answer you and they never see you again. So each round trip, it doesn't matter where the start of the conversation came from and where the end of the conversation is going to. And you can take everything that's been done so far and paste it into Gemini and get it to create this Kanban board, or into ChatGPT and get it to create the Kanban board. You can really switch between these. And yes, answering Georgina as well. Yes, this was based upon Claude. The Excel model was based upon Claude's free capabilities right now today. They only really got good at Excel in the last couple of weeks, to be honest.
This is where the power of AI really starts to shine. So now it has gone through our business model canvas, and it's basically taken out all the things that we ought to do. So it ranks them from backlog. We haven't started what we need to do, what's in progress. I pushed some of the things in progress already. But let's take draft partnership agreements. Now, this is something I think for most people is the most dreadful thing, dealing with lawyers. So let's open this particular card. I can assign this to Chris because I don't want to deal with lawyers. But what's more important, what does it actually mean to draft partnership agreements? So what Gemini allows you to do is actually interact even now. So said, let's generate the subtask. So this is done live. It will tell you and it will create a checklist of what this means. So imagine the power. We are not experts in this field at all. We had an idea, we built a concept, and now we have a project plan. And even whilst the project plan is being produced, we can go into a lot more detail. This is the power of AI. This is your sidekick. This is your unrelenting individual that helps you with difficult tasks that you're not necessarily good with. I can save this and I can drag it into it's in progress, and you see that it's being saved. So this is some tool that keeps state. So if I were to get out of this tool now and open my browser again, it would still have all the additional information that I created. Very, very powerful tool that we just created through natural language coding. Okay, so that is the step of project management. Let's now go to the final one, and that is that we need to create launch materials. Now, I would do this actually also at the beginning, because what Amazon does is when they create a new product, they immediately write a press release. They reckon that that is a really good way of visualizing in text what the end product or the service should look like. And let's go to the beginning. So again, we have the competitor table because we want to make sure that the way in which we position this product in the market is different from the competitors. And we have our BMC report, business model canvas report. And as I said before, when the project advances, you have to you build upon the intermediate products that you've done before, like the spreadsheets, like reports, like memoranda, etc. So now we're doing a somewhat complex prompt because we first want the AI model to familiarize itself with Amazon's working backwards methodology, and it needs to create a press release, and it needs to create an FAQ for the consumers as well as an FAQ for internal people, because it becomes a discussion document for all your stakeholders. This is a very good way of drawing other people in and say, do you think this is a good idea? Even if you never intend to use the press release because you're a community project, it is really a very good tool. So as you can imagine, by now, all of these intermediate products are being created, and we can open them, and this is what they look like. So the press release opens in Google Gemini. So again, I can change that. The same for the FAQ. It's there, and I can now, as you see, within Google Docs, still use Gemini to further refine this particular internal FAQ or the self-critique. This is important. So again, one of the questions that we received before the session was, how can we make sure that we get the right answer? So what we do here at the end is to say, now that you've created the press release, go back and look at all the competitors and find where we are weak, where we are strong, and give me suggestions how we can further improve the business model. Again, so these are at every point in the process, we built in checkpoints where we ask the models themselves to critique themselves and to further improve their products that help us get the idea realized. Now we're getting to the fun stuff, is creating images. So what we said to the model, go into the report, the business model canvas, and come up with 5 concepts, which it did. And then we said, okay, the concepts are good. Now write us very detailed prompts that we can use to create the images, and we approved them. And then here you see the images that were created. So in this instance, it's an Asian lady that is visiting an artist. And we have a couple of more pictures. This is a chef presenting a new idea around boerewors, etc. But I'm not so happy with these images. I think we can do better. So what we then did is there's another tool that you can use for free in limited way, and that is Whisk from Google. And we take the same prompts And now you can see that the images are of much higher quality and they're in a 60 by 9 format. But now we want to bring the project really to life. So what we did is we took this picture and we took that picture and we said, why should we not create a video out of that?
What we have here, this is home. This is our classic grilled boerewors, but we've refined it. So what we have here,
and this is the other one.
For me, this is the pulse of our townships. It's the energy, the stories that need to be told, but in a language that's universal. For me.
So this is very powerful because this is really when your product comes alive. Again, this is the end of the demonstrations. We're very aware of the fact that we showed you that it was probably very difficult to follow everything in detail. But please, we will make this available to you so that at your own time, you can run through all the prompts by yourself, either to look at how we did it or take the prompt and do it, refine it to your product idea and come to a conclusion. So Lindsay and Chris, let's open up to questions.
I want to just build on that a little bit more, RJ. One of our principles, and we go around the country a lot doing presentations to corporates, one of our principles is it's very difficult to teach AI. Once we've shown you something can be done, you can actually figure it out by yourself, because in figuring it out, you're actually asking the AI, how do I do this and how do I do that? And you will get to damn good answers all by yourself. All you really need with AI is to be shown what can be done. Once you've seen what can be done, you can actually put it off by yourself.
Thank you. Lindsay, any questions?
Yeah, before we jump into questions, just one little message to the chat. If you head over to the facts, commentary, and resources tab, there's a survey in there that can help you help us make better webinars. We're thinking of doing more of these kinds of workshops, hands-on workshops as well, maybe some in-person meetups where you can see that I do have other clothes, and that AI doesn't actually make you bald. I just shave my head really closely. So yeah, if you go in there, it's weird. All three of us are sitting here with like cheese sculpt, and we all love AI. But let's talk about like this prompt engineering thing. Haven't we moved beyond just being like full on prompt engineers? Like have the tools have progressed to a point where you can chat more naturally with them. But this linear kind of idea of having the correct prompt and asking the model to give you a prompt to make it better. What's this relationship about?
And I think
Chris,
that comes back to symbiotic intelligence. The same way you deal with a subordinate at work and your team members, they listen to you. You don't communicate very well. Nobody does. They go away, they do something, they come back and you look at it and you say, one of us didn't get the plot here. What I actually meant was the following, go try again. And that's the iterative process. Things have now got to the level, as you just alluded, where you can even say, and RJ did it a couple of times, you say to the model, you write the prompt for me. Because I actually, number one, don't want to spend the time typing here. But number two, you're actually probably going to do a better job than I am. And when you scan the prompt, that's when you get to see, hang on, you didn't cover off something I was thinking about, and it'll augment it. And that's really where this is all going now. And it's getting faster and faster, that this helps you help yourself. And that's like a really, really good team working together in a consulting firm.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So 2 years ago, people thought that by now we would not need prompt engineering. Actually, the opposite is happening. We're now moving to a situation where we start to talk about context engineering. And it depends on the context that you've given a model, how well it will be able to answer a simple question. You know, later on in the project, you can ask simple questions and say, hey, develop the prompt for me. But if you're at the beginning of a project, I hope that we've shown you today that when you start with a prompt that you've given due consideration to, that gives you a lot of context, that really specifies what you want, you will get better answers. But more importantly, you stop hallucinations. So if you want to have proper answers at this stage, the better prompt will stop hallucinations.
And I think it's worth mentioning now, and Lana asks, how do we get these prompts? All the prompts that RJ's used today, that flicked past on the screen so fast, no one got to see them, not even me. We're going to give them all to you in a Google Drive, organized by steps, as RJ had them listed in his little bookmarks. So you can literally copy and paste them. And as you copy and paste them, you will change the word because you're not building a little tour operator. Maybe you're building a cake business or maybe something for your church group. You will change those words accordingly. It's all English. And that's the wonderful thing about AI. Everything is in English now. So that will be coming out to the Google Drive. So one of the questions that I think Barry asked or Glenn asked saying is Chris actually, is that Kanban tool also free? I don't think that came across, RJ. RJ actually wrote a prompt that said, I want a Kanban tool. Make me a Kanban tool. And the AI made RJ's Kanban tool for him in the chat right there. What's fascinating, the Kanban tool he's got there is as good as Monday.com was the day it was released. Now, Monday.com is now one of the big SaaS apps out there, one of the big success stories. Had you looked at it 3 years ago, what you would have seen was something as basic as RJ built there in a 30-second prompt. That's mind-blowing. And that's the kind of thing we've got going for us now.
Yeah, that is absolutely mind-blowing. In terms of virtual South African accents, the models are getting better. Jill, I believe it is. I found that Microsoft actually has the best South African accent. So if you just maybe want to make your life more complicated, just sample the audio from like a Word document and read it in South African accent. There's a lot of different like tips and tricks and hacks that you can do in the background to make these things better. But just talking about like a lot of people watching, a lot of people starting digital businesses are going to be using websites. And as we are moving to the agentic age of AI, where agents, the AI is like clicking through websites on your behalf. In the future, you might never have to actually book a flight yourself. You can just tell an AI model to go and do that thing. How do creators, how do these business owners establish websites for humans while still building for a future where AI is a dystopian future, where AI is just doing all the work online for us?
Chris, do you want to answer or should I take it?
I know what your answer is, RJ. The answer is being personal. And what we're going to see now, and now one of the big accusations of how we're going to differentiate between AI slop versus real stuff. And as Sen Altman pointed out the other day, we've been getting false media for years now. Every single Instagram post you see, trust me, is nothing like what is going on behind the scenes of that person on the Instagram screen. They just pose and give you what they want you to see. And AI is doing the same thing. It's just taking it to another level. And we're all learning to manage that as we go along. But what's going to become the differentiator is being real, is being genuine, is being someone who will actually stand up in front of the camera and talk from your heart properly. And I think that's going to separate the AI stuff out. RJ?
To answer the question about agentic AI and how to develop websites, the very practical tip is that you continue to develop a website for human beings that is visible to human beings, that you also start to have parts of your website that are not visible to human beings, but that are visible to the agentic crawler. And one of the things that you need to do there is have like 100 or 200 questions and answers, because that's how a ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude will look on the internet. It will look for answers. And there are technologies where you can actually figure out what people want to know about your category, your industry, your product. And then you basically make sure that you have the best possible answers so that if an agentic tool wants to find answers quickly, it will dish up your website as having the correct answer and possibly the correct service or product, which is completely different from today, where Google basically serves up answers based on how much money you're willing to spend with them. So we have a short window of opportunity where you can become a marketing fundi for free, because there's no way to advertise yet in Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT. It's all driven by how smartly you can present your knowledge to them.
Thanks, Chris and RJ. I've been told, I've been assured by my overlords that the Google Drive link will be in the article that this webinar will be captured in. I will whip the appropriate intern to get it done as quick as possible so you can have access to that. Thanks for the chat. It's been wild. Just in closing, Melanie, I believe in the .co.za domain. I believe it still has a lot of legs for local content. But yeah, you can open up to a .io or any other domain that you might feel would be more appealing to an international audience, depending on how you positioning your website. Yeah, thanks, guys. Anything just short, 20 seconds in closing that you want to impart?
Yeah,
Chris?
let me answer Melanie's question another way. Melanie, that question you asked, should I use a .ai domain or should I use a .coza domain? You know what? Ask AI. If you ask ChatGPT that question, it will weigh up the pros and cons and guide you for your particular situation, what is the right answer. And I'm saying this because every question you've got, everything you could possibly want to ask, you will find AI has a better answer for you than any of your buts. And that I can practically guarantee.
Mine is
RJ?
very short. Ladies and gentlemen, just do it. This is actually fun. And it will make you more effective, more productive, and it's fun. Thank you very much.
Visit dailymaverick.co.za for the actual story about how AI is coming and living with us and all the dangers that it has and all the good things that it has, like we've just shown you. And to follow credible human beings that will be delivering you very good answers to your questions. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great one further.
Thank you very much, everyone.